Good morning, everybody. My name is Colin Flood, and I'm from the NOAC Secretariat, the admin backup, you could say, to the NOAC board itself. So first of all, I'd just like to welcome the NOAC board members and the chair this morning, the LGMA, my colleagues in the NOAC Secretariat, and of course, most importantly, all of the attendees from the local authorities. So thank you very much for taking the time to join us here today. I want to give an overview of the learnings from last year's report, the timeline for this year's report, the changes to existing indicators, and an introduction to new indicators. So the slides, the guidelines, and the recording of this presentation will be posted on the NOAC website at www.noac.ie. Next slide, please. So you can see just a quick breakdown of the timeline that we are planning to follow. So LG Returns is still receiving a little bit of work at the moment, just to properly show the updated guidelines and the updated text and the new indicators. So we'll advise local authority data coordinators as soon as this is open, but we don't foresee any big delays with that. So hopefully we will be advising you in the next week or two of that opening date. We plan to return to the deadline of previous years of the 30th of April. The data checking, the verification and the validation reviews, so that's all the audit queries, the soft queries, and the remote visits to local authorities to verify their data. We're hoping to have them completed by the end of June. And then again, we're returning to the previous publication date of September 2021. So after that opening date, my colleagues in NOAC, myself and my colleagues will be available to answer any queries that you may have on the methodology, on the tech side of things, gaining access, changing data. We're there to answer any of your queries on that. So I recommend that if you do have a query on anything at all, to email us at info@noac.ie, just to make sure that your query is dealt with by a member of the Secretariat. So you can go to the next slide there, please. Just to echo Martina's comments, our learnings from the 2019 report and changes that we do make to indicators are there just to really add accuracy to the data that we're publishing. So just a couple of comments on this. Each year we kind of have the same issues coming up, and that is data entered into the incorrect fields, insufficient comments, provided with anomalies, and per capita figures not being checked. So they're the three kind of flagship issues that we do come across. I think a lot of this can be dealt with by a double check before the data is submitted. But obviously contact us with any queries you do have on a figure that may look wrong, and we'll give you any advice we can. So yeah, don't be afraid to comment. Send us a long comment in an email, but the comment in the comment box beside your figure. We will read them and we will take a look at them and give you a response on them. Some of the other issues we found came back to housing, which is probably the most complex area in the indicators. So that was data that's supplied to NOAC through the performance indicators not matching data provided to the Department of Housing. So we asked that maybe you check your returns before the final submission of your data in housing, just to make sure they match what is being produced by the Department of Housing. Another issue in housing we found was nearly 2/3 of local authorities, their closing figure from 2018 did not match their opening figure for 2019. So just check that published report on NOAC's website to make sure that the figures that you're carrying on match. If not, please contact us, give us an explanation of what's happening, and it saves us contacting you and then opening the audit query, getting you to fill it in and closing the audit query and updating our tables. So it stops that hefty admin process afterwards by meeting it up front. And then under M1H, one of the new sub-indicators, we're only looking for the listed local authorities to reply in relation to shared services. So if you move on to the next slide, there are some of the changes that we've made to the text in the guidelines under existing indicators will hopefully resolve some of those issues. So the first one being is that we're asking for somebody in senior management level to sign off within the local authority on the returns before they come back to NOAC. Now, I know that data coordinators are kind of a mixed bag. Some of you may already be at a senior management level or have senior management as part of the team, but we're asking that all 31 kind of get in line with each other and have that signed off by senior management level. In a practical sense, what we can do here in the Secretariat is pull a report of all your submissions ahead of the closing date, send that to you and have it signed off and sent back to us at info@noac.ie, just ensuring that there is a double check of the data that's been sent into us. We're hoping just to clear up some of the ones that were sent in blank or were sent in with an improbable return. So that's where we have per capita figures that have been put in already divided per capita. So it's given you a return of a fraction of what your per capita cost should be, say, under fire. And a double check will hopefully root that out before it's submitted and then requires an audit query. Next slide, please. So specific changes to the wording within the guidelines. So this is under housing, H1A, H1B, and then H5, B to D. The italics is the exact wording that we've now entered into the guidelines, but in bold underneath that, I've just given it a quick tagline just for easiness sake. So under H1A, we've just added text to ask you to look at the closing figure from last year versus the opening from this year, as I've previously said. Under H1B, we're asking you to check your return against the returns given to the Department of Housing to make sure they match. And in H5, data coordinators will be delighted to hear that we will ask for the data to come directly from the Department of Housing. So there'll no longer be a local authority input required under that one. So next slide, please. Changes under the text for libraries. We've added L1C, which is the active members. Rather than, but also we're looking for the registered. So we've updated that really just to reflect the recognition and difference between active and registered members of the library. So we're going to be asking for both of them under libraries, but the updated one being the addition of library active members. Again, there's a long list there about who we're looking to track, but please do contact us if you have any queries about who you may include or who you may not include, and we'll be glad to answer them. You can move on there, please. Thank you. Some smaller changes here now. Under corporate, the local authority website and social media usage, as you may or may not be aware, there are cookie policies being added to local authority websites where recording of numbers is no longer automatic. So the person visiting your website has to tick a box to say, yes, I want to be recorded as visiting this website. So we're not sure just exactly what the national picture is yet. Under that cookie policy, but we're very keen to find out. So besides your returns under this local authority, if you could please advise whether there is a cookie policy there in place that is stopping automatic counting, it'll just be able to give us an idea of how to properly represent that indicator this year. Under environmental, we've changed the wording under the households with access to tree bin service. No longer will it be shown against the 2016 census, but more those that are those under the agglomerations of over 500. So it's more of a fair representation of what the local authority is able to do in that area. Finally, under environment, we've updated the text for the schools that currently hold green flag status, just really to address the issue of not recording schools that didn't need to renew. So we've just updated the wording under that. So if you can move on to the next slide, please. This is the introduction of our 3 new indicators. So 1 under environmental and 2 under finance. So under environmental, we have public lighting, which will be E6. M3 will be public liability claims, and M4 are overheads. So I'll just go into some greater detail on each one of them. So we can move on to the next slide, please. So public lighting, Under environmental section, we're looking for the total billable wattage of the public lighting system, the average billable wattage of the public lighting system, and then the percentage of the total system that LED lights represent. Again, you'll be thankful to know that we're taking this data directly from the RMO. It won't require local authority input, but depending on the timing of the upload of the data, you will be able to check the data that was input on LG returns, or we'll be able to provide that data for you. So you can check maybe against your records. So we'll be looking for the number of LED lights in the public lighting system, and then the number of SOX on lights in the public lighting system. If you can move on to the next slide, please. So under finance, M3 is the new public liability indicator, the per capita total cost of settled claims for the years 2018, 19, and 2020. So for 2020, we're going to take the data directly from IPB insurances, but for 2018 and 2019, we'll require local authority input into LG returns. For the first year, we'll be looking for 2018, 2019, and 2020 to maybe start a bit of a trend or have a bit of a comparison year on year, and then we'll collect it annually thereafter. So just next year, it'll be 2021 and so forth. So we're looking for the number of claims notified, the number of claims settled, and the total cost of settling claims for each year. So you can move on to the next slide, please. What to include under that indicator. We're looking for the monetary cost of all public liability claims, whether settled through IPB insurances or by the local authority as self-insured, or the claim amount was under the IPB excess. Now, what does that mean? NOAC are looking to capture under this indicator the euro cost of what this is costing local authorities to pay out in these claims. So if you have any claims that have closed with no cost, or closed for any reason without anything being paid out, you don't need to include them. But we are very keen to capture what local authorities are paying out, be it under their excess through IPB insurances or be it self-insured. And then we're able to collect all the IPB data directly from them. Again, it's a new indicator. Please do contact us if you have any queries at all on it. We'll be very happy to talk through it. We have been talking and emailing about this indicator for weeks now, so we'll be more than happy to sit down and talk to you what it means, what should be included and what shouldn't. Next slide, please. Also under finance is M4 overheads. So M4 overheads, we're looking for the overall central management charge as a percentage of the total expenditure on revenue account and the total payroll costs as a percentage of the revenue expenditure. So a brand new indicator for 2020. As you can see there, the data will be set out in the LA Costings Manual and the local authority budget. Now, we're very mindful of local authority feedback on this one. It's important to NOAC that this indicator adds value to the report. So we want to collect the data and see what the results are. And obviously, we'll work closely with you and advise as best we can of what should be contained in it and what shouldn't be. So do contact us if there's any issues with that. Next slide, please. Just more of a breakdown of M4 under the two subheadings M4A and M4B, and where to find the documentation, where to find the data as well. So for M4A, the data is contained in the local authority financial management system and is defined in the annual budget and includes the overheads listed there. I won't go through each one of them, but again, this slide will be up on the NOAC website for your review and will be available to go through with you anything that should or should not be included. M4B is contained in the Appendix 1 of the AFS. And again, those headings there are what you're looking for. So next slide, please. Some smaller updates to the guidelines. I'd like to, first of all, thank the LGMA for highlighting these with me. And there's one data coordinator out there, and you know who you are, who's contacted me with each one of these dates that needed to be updated in the guidelines. So somebody out there is going through this with a fine tooth comb. Thank you very much to that data coordinator. I have previously shared the NOAC guidelines with some dates that should have been updated. So I've listed them here. I won't go through each one of them, but just know that the guidelines that were shared along with the link for this webinar and the guidelines that will be posted on our website following this webinar will be the updated ones with these I think there's 6 altogether dates updated. If you move on to the next slide there, you'll just see the remaining updated dates. Again, these were just where I had said, had taken place by 24th of April 2020. Well, it should be 21. So apologies for that, but they are updated now in the guidelines being circulated. Next slide, please. A few more updates. Again, they're in the new guidelines that were circulated with the link. Libraries L2B was actually left out of the original guidelines. Apologies for that. It's now been returned to it as with previous years. An update to the LG return system has allowed us to update this wording in finance. We originally asked you under the new M3 public liability indicator to insert data for 2018 and 2019 in the comment boxes, but the LGMA have kindly provided data fields for these, so that's been updated. And then finally, under J1 and J2, we asked that the data be submitted and then LG returns would calculate it into per capita. The per capita turned out to be a fraction of, it turned to be up to 6 decimal places, which was kind of unusual. So we will now present that as per 100,000. You won't have to change anything. You're still putting in the total figure, but it's just to advise you that that wording has updated. Next slide, please. So what are the next steps? Our plans are to run a separate workshop specifically for housing. Again, as it is the most complex area, it does generate the most audit queries and the most queries each year. So we will be in touch with the data coordinators to arrange that as soon as we can. The opening of LG returns, as discussed earlier, we are just waiting for the last few changes to be made on the LG return system, and we'll advise you of that opening date as soon as we can. A little bit of housekeeping for you. Anybody that's done this process before will know this one, but for those of you that are new, the data coordinator should arrange for the immediate running of all ICT and other systems reports containing data as at the 31st December 2020. That's a small typo. For example, followers on Twitter. So you may know that after the first 90 days, it becomes impossible to pull the data for the previous year. So if you could pull them as soon as possible rather than waiting for the summer to find that you're not able to pull that, it'd be much appreciated. And then obviously to remember that we are your first port of call here at NOAC for any queries you have on methodology and tech support, be it adding people, being changing data, being asking what exactly should be added, what should be taken away from any category there. And you can contact us at info@noac.ie just to make sure that that query is dealt with. Next slide, please. So I'll finish out with just a roundup of the timeline. We will advise you as soon as possible when LG returns is available for you to start inputting data. We're planning for the deadline of the data input to be the 30th of April. The validation visits, the verification, the audit query process, all to be finished by the end of June, and all going well, publication date will be September 2021. So that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your time and for your attention. Again, just to leave up the contact details there. Any queries you have, we are here to answer them. We are here to work them through with you. So do contact us at info@noac.ie and we'll do our best to answer any query you have. Thank you very much.